Hello, Wonderhussy here, just hanging out in the desert on a beautiful sunny November day. This is one of those calm, beautiful days when living in the desert really does feel like paradise. It's November 17th, the sun is shining, it's about 65 degrees, and there's not a cloud in the sky. Except for that wispy stuff. Anyway, I hiked up here to the old rugged cross on top of the hill next to my Death Valley compound just to soak up the sunshine and enjoy the fact that it's not windy for once. Oh dang, look at that! I actually caught a fighter jet on camera. This was totally unexpected and you probably can't even see it because, well, the mountains are behind it. There it goes. Look at that. That thing went low. Oh, there's two of them. I don't know if you can see, there's one in the background too. Holy cow! Just another one of those bizarre, unexpected perks to living in Death Valley. Or actually, I should say, well, I'm always saying that I call it my Death Valley compound. I'm always saying that I live in Death Valley. Well, I don't actually live in Death Valley National Park. Very few people live in Death Valley National Park, and are mostly government employees. No, I live right outside Death Valley. Death Valley is actually that way about, I think the closest point of Death Valley is 8.29 miles from here. So I'm just east of Death Valley in a funky little town called Tecopa. From up here, you can see about half the town. This is the hot springs area, but there's a whole other section of town right over the hill there. And actually, I think this part of town here might officially be called Tecopa Hot Springs, and the actual Tecopa is the part over the hill there. I'm not even sure. I don't know. I'm embarrassed to say I don't know all the facts or the history of my own town. So I thought on such a nice sunny day like this, well, this might be a good opportunity to go take a little poke around and show you guys the history and the current state of the town where I live. Now, as far as I know, this place has existed as a natural oasis for thousands of years. I mean, that vast marsh out there is the remains of a huge prehistoric lake called Lake Tecopa. That's right. Can you imagine a lake in the middle of the vast, harsh, arid, inhospitable Mojave Desert? And that's just one of the things that makes this place so unique. There's also a river that runs through here, the Amargosa River, and it's one of the only water sources for many, many, many miles in any direction. So this has always been a resting spot for people traveling across the deserts to the coast. The Native Americans, and then the old Spanish Trail and the Mormon Road, all them pioneers stopped here to rest up, drink water, and let their animals drink water. And because it's the only source of water for many, many, many miles in any direction, well, there have always been native peoples living here. I think the Paiute Shoshone was the name of the Indian tribe that lived in this area, and they lived out here peacefully for many, many, many generations. Oh, until about the mid-1800s, when the white man started cruising around looking for gold and minerals in all them there hills. And that's basically how the town of Tecopa started. Because of mining. There was tons of mines in the mountains all around this area. And the Tonopah and Tidewater Railroad, which was a railroad that carried mining ore from the mines up in Nevada to the main rail line in California, ran right through this area. I mean, you can see here next to where I parked, well, it looks like the ruins of an old stamp mill and basically the kind of trash heap that's left behind it. Many abandoned mines. But that's what was going on here back in the day when the little town of Tecopa was first founded. Actually, when it was first founded, it was called Brownsville. I guess these two, well, according to what I read on Wikipedia, these two brothers by the name of Brown founded the town because of, I think there was silver and lead in these mountains over there. That's what brought all the people here to this settlement in the first place. That's why the Brown brothers came here and named it Brownsville. But then, according to Wikipedia, they sold the town to this other dude, and he changed the name of the town to Tecopa, which was the name of a Paiute Native American well, I guess he was sort of a chief. I actually made a whole video about Chief Tecopa once because he's an absolutely fascinating historical figure, and you can check that out here. But to sum it up, Tecopa means wildcat in the Paiute language, and he got that name because he was a fierce warrior in his youth. But later in life, he became more of a peacemaker, and I guess that's why they named the town after him. And matter of fact, this was the original town site. Okay, you might not have been able to tell by my GoPro footage, but I drove 11 miles to come out here to the old Tecopa town site, and there's a historical sign here talking about it. It says, this 160-acre parcel is the site of the original mining town of Tecopa, founded in 1878. Property now belongs to the Amargosa Conservancy, a non-profit land trust. Anyway, like I said, I had to drive 11 miles to get here because the original town was nowhere near where the current town is today. And I think that's because, well, they were doing a lot of mining, extracting minerals from these mountains, and then you know how that goes, and you gotta soak the ore and all kinds of unspeakably foul, toxic chemicals, and, well, you leave behind god-awful messes like that old abandoned mill out there, and unfortunately, I think they poisoned the soil so much out here that they had no choice if they wanted to live. Well, they basically had to jack up all the buildings and move them to a new location. I'm not making this up. I wish I was. That's my understanding of the situation anyways. I'm not a historian, and there's not a ton of information about the history of this weird... I mean, this is a really weird place, okay? Tecopa, if you look at a map, Inyo County, California, which is the second biggest county in California. It's the county where Death Valley is. It's the county where Mount Whitney is. It's got the highest point in the lower 48. It's got the lowest point in the lower 48. It's a huge, vast county, and Tecopa is way down in the far southeastern corner of it. It's a blip on the map, and I wouldn't be surprised if none of you had ever heard of it before. But it's here, and it's where I live. But like I was saying, there's not a lot of information about the history of Tecopa online. So some of this information that I'm presenting here is, well, I'm going to go ahead and say it, at least 50% conjecture. But at least I'm being honest about it. And to be fair, a lot of my information just comes from talking to locals, you know, longtime locals. There's some people who have lived out here for a long time, and they're absolutely fascinating to talk to. And so a lot of this, well, gossip and hearsay that I'm about to present to you comes from me talking to those people. But when it comes to talking about why they moved the original town site in the first place, well, that's not 100% conjecture because there is another sign here. The area beyond this sign was used historically as a settling basin for liquids used in silver and lead milling operations. Yikes. The soil contains unsafe levels of several heavy metals and other substances that could pose a health hazard. Okay, if they don't even want you poking around here 120 years later, then by golly, there has to be something pretty foul and nasty in the dirt here. And well, I guess I'm just assuming that's why they moved the town. But if you look around through the sagebrush, you'll find old boards and timbers and even some old concrete foundations, little bits and pieces of the town that was once here, and even a Joshua tree. Whoa, this is super cool. I did not know there was a Joshua tree this close to my house. For those who don't know, the iconic Joshua tree, you might remember it from the U2 album of the same name. It's a tree that grows in the Mojave Desert, but it only grows above a certain elevation. I thought they needed snow in the winter to survive. This one here looks like it's doing pretty good, despite the toxic contaminated soil. So, hey, what do I know? Maybe the soil out here is actually really good for you, and well, maybe I should ignore that sign and go wallowing around in that basin and smear the dirt all over my face. On second thought, maybe not. I think instead of that, I'm going to drive over to the present town site of Tecopa and show you what the town of Tecopa is like today. Okay, nowadays Tecopa is kind of split up into 3 areas. There's the Hot Springs district where I live. Then there's kind of like a business district that we jokingly refer to as downtown Tecopa. And you'll see why I say it like that in a bit. But then there's this other area up here on the left that's kind of a residential neighborhood called Tecopa Heights. Okay, Tecopa Heights is, I guess, basically sort of a suburb where I think most of the people in Tecopa live. I'm just guessing. I feel bad saying this, but I don't even really know how many people actually live in Tecopa. I mean, according to Wikipedia, it's something like 150, but golly, it's hard to say because some of them seem like they never come out of their trailers or homes. But this is where a lot of people who live here have their homes. And besides all the homes, there's also a cemetery and a water kiosk. That's right, because we can't drink the groundwater out here. It's probably contaminated with a bunch of mining chemicals, but then there's also just naturally occurring high levels of borates and arsenic. So you can't drink the well water here, unfortunately, and there's no municipal water. Forget about that. There's only 150 people out here. So they have this community water kiosk. It's a well with a reverse osmosis filter on it, and you basically have to go pay 25 cents a gallon for your drinking water and tote it home. You might remember it from another video I made all about the water kiosk one time. Anyway, now let's go check out downtown Tecopa. When you're alone and life is making you lonely, you can always go downtown. Okay, maybe it's not that kind of downtown, but this is what passes for downtown Tecopa. Although I guess more businesses are starting to open up over in the Hot Springs district, which we'll get to in a minute. Over here, we do have a post office and a church. And then in this building over here, there's a really cool little cafe that has like sandwiches and coffee. And then a really cool brewery, a craft brewery. This guy brews all his own beer, and it's a super fun place to hang out. Even though I don't like beer, but he usually has some kind of hard cider or hard seltzer. And oh gosh, it's always a good time. It's one of my favorite places to come chill. And well, I guess you might say, the lights are much brighter there. You can forget all your troubles, forget all your cares, and go. Actually, I was talking to some locals who've lived out here for a long time, and they were telling me that in this building there used to be a bar that was really fun called the Snake Pit. I'm not sure where exactly in the building it was. That's a really interesting building, by the way. Obviously, it's privately owned, so I can't just go poking around in it, but if you've ever been to that brewery and you had to go use the bathroom, well, the bathroom is down there on the last door, and to get to the bathroom, you have to go through this long, winding hallway past all these weird rooms full of mannequins and weird artwork and antiques. It's bizarre. Anyway, I think the Snake Pit was in the middle of the building. Apparently, back when the mines were operating here and there was a lot of people living here, relatively a lot of people, this was the spot, man. People used to even come out here from Pahrump. I mean, not like that's such a big deal if you've ever been to Pahrump, but Pahrump is a town of 40,000 people now. Tecopa has 150. Well, imagine back in the day, people used to drive out here to go party at this Snake Pit. And it sounds like it was pretty much your proverbial crazy Wild West bar. In fact, I guess maybe after the mines closed, or maybe while the mines were still operational, I think it was kind of like a meth bar. Anyway, like I said earlier in the video, this is all conjecture and hearsay from people I talked to who used to live here. All of that was way before my time. I didn't start coming out here until, oh gosh, I guess I started coming out here around 2013 on day trips from Vegas. Remember, we're only an hour and a half from Vegas. So I used to just come out here for the day to go soak in the hot springs, and then I'd go have a beer or a cider at the brewery, and then I'd go get a bite to eat at one of the little cafes. And well, golly, I just liked the place so much I ended up moving here. Anyway, by the time I started coming out here, Tecopa was basically almost like a ghost town. But as evidenced by the fact that there's an actual school here, well, this was at one time a fully functioning town. I don't know how long this school has been closed for, what year it closed. I know there are a couple kids here in town. In fact, I just saw the school bus go by. So I'm guessing they get bused to the school over in Shoshone. If you've ever been to the little town of Shoshone, it's only 7 miles from here. And well, there's a school there. I thought it was just a high school, but well, maybe it's like K through 12. Anyway, at one time there was, I guess, an elementary school here, and it doesn't look like it was really that big of a school. And unfortunately, they have it locked up tighter than a you-know-what nowadays. But we can still peek in through the windows, see if we can see anything. Oh my gosh, yes we can. Can you imagine what it would have been like to go to school here in tiny Tecopa, California. You know, right on the edge of Death Valley. Your dad was some miner and he would spend his evenings drinking at the snake pit. And here's how you know you're going to school right outside Death Valley. There's not one, two, but three ginormous air conditioners sitting out front, which, as we all know, you definitely need out here because it only gets to be about 135 degrees every summer. Anyway, it's been many years since this old flagpole saw an American flag flapping at the end of it, with the little children of miners standing solemnly beneath it with their hands on their hearts, reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. And it's been many moons since anyone played basketball on this busted old basketball court, or swung on that swing set, or climbed on that jungle gym. Okay, now let's go check out the third and final part of Tecopa, which is the Hot Springs district, where I live. But first, let me stop off at my house and get my e-bike, because I think it'll be a lot more fun and easy to get around and show you stuff if I'm riding that. Haha, this is much more fun. Okay, so now I'm going to show you the Hot Springs district where I live. For whatever reason, there's a bunch of hot springs, natural occurring hot springs in this part of town. Not over in the Heights, not over in downtown Tecopa, and certainly not over at the old original Tecopa town site. But whatever is going on underground here, a lot of the houses here, people who live here, have their own hot springs. And it's one of life's greatest ironies and greatest injustices that my house isn't one of them. But in addition to there being hot springs in lots of people's private houses here, there's also a bunch of hot springs resorts. Okay, that's the Tecopa Hot Spring Campground and Resort. I think they have motel rooms, they've got hot spring pools, obviously. There's RV hookups, and then there's 3 other resorts down the road. There's a county hot spring campground, RV park, and bathhouse, and then there's, well, you've maybe heard of Delight's Hot Spring. It's a pretty well-known place. And then there's a new one that just opened called Therapeutic. That's, well, it's very clean and orderly if you're not into that hippy-dippy nonsense like the rest of these places. But you know me, I like hippy-dippy stuff, and, well, that's why I like, this is the Tecopa Hot Springs Campground. And what I like about this place is, first of all, they have an amazing restaurant here called Steaks and Beer. This is maybe my favorite restaurant in the entire world. He makes really amazing steak, and even if you're not a big steak eater, which I'm not, he makes a really good steak salad. He makes a really good vegetarian pasta. He makes a really good garden salad. And then he makes this amazing dish called Salisbury steak, which is kind of like meatloaf on a bed of mashed potatoes with sauteed green. Oh my God, now I'm getting hungry. And then right next door to Steaks and Beer is this amazing little stage where they do live music on the weekends. And I've seen some really amazing musicians perform on this stage. You never know who's passing through town. I mean, this is basically a little snowbird resort town. And so all kinds of travelers come through here in the wintertime. And, well, sometimes they bring their musical instruments with them. And if they see there's a stage, well, by golly, any given Saturday night, you never know who you're going to hear, what you're going to hear performing on that stage. It's pretty amazing. Now, aside from the resorts, the Hot Springs District is also home to all the government-funded facilities, like our fire department, our itty-bitty library, and our community center, which is actually a really cool little small-town community center. We recently had a potluck dinner over there. Like, the whole town got together for a potluck dinner in the community center. Just like the good old days, it was super cool. Unfortunately, there's some kind of COVID protocols or something about using the kitchen, so the county or the state has given us grief about having Thanksgiving there. And then look over here. When's the last time you saw a payphone? I don't even know if this thing works. Let me see. Oh my gosh, I don't know if you'll be able to hear this. You hear that dial tone? It's an actual, honest to goodness, working payphone. That is super cool. I did not know that was here until today. And that's actually super useful out here and could be a lifesaver because there's no cell signal out here. At least not if you have Verizon, which I do. I get 0 cell signal anywhere in this area. Now, I guess if you have AT&T or T-Mobile, you can get a little bit of a signal here or there, but for the most part, this is a big old dead zone, and that's why there's a payphone. And I should note, a giant scorpion made out of old junk right next to it. Yikers, look at this thing. How'd you like to wake up with that in your boot? But this is the kind of thing I love about this town that I moved to. And well, if you haven't been able to figure it out thus far in this video, it's because it's so quirky and there's so many interesting kind of artsy, slightly ramshackledy, but with potential kinds of things. I don't know, something about this town really speaks to me. And guess what? We're not even done with the tour yet. There's a few more places I got to show you before I wrap this up. Okay, just next to that scorpion and that phone booth there is the county bathhouse. And again, this is mostly hearsay, but I thought I read or heard that the Native Americans, when they sort of gave this land over to the white man, they stipulated that the hot springs should always be free to use. Well, I guess this county bathhouse used to be free for many years. And then, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, they started charging. That's like 10 bucks a day now to go soak. And I guess that, that kind of pissed off a lot of longtime locals. Again, I don't know any better because I haven't lived here that long, but I have been in to soak there, and they're really nice pools. It's segregated men and women, male and female. And I can't speak for the men's side, but the women's side is pretty nice. Okay, anyway, continuing along Tecopa Hot Springs Road through the rest of town. Well, there's really not too much down at this end of town, but there's 2 more hot springs resorts. Okay, what? I already showed you Tecopa Hot Spring Resort, and I showed you the county bathhouse. Well, there's 4 hot spring resorts in this town because I guess, well, if you're really into hot springs, again, somebody told me this, that the waters here, the hot spring waters, have the 2nd highest concentration of minerals of any hot springs in the world. I think number 1 is supposedly Baden-Baden in Germany. Okay, now up here on the left is a place called Therapeutic, and that's the one that I said was high and tight and clean, no fuss, no muss. It's kind of a new place, but I know the guy who operates it, and he's super cool. My friend Randy actually stayed there for a few days when he came out here to help us, and he said they had really fast internet, and I think he had like a 40 amp hookup, if that means anything to you RVers. I guess that's like a really high or strong electrical connection. So if you're looking for good internet and good power, then you probably want to stay over there. But if you want to stay someplace quirky and hippy dippy, well, then you can either stay at the Tecopa Hot Springs campground that I showed you at first, or you can stay over here by the giant red windmill at Delight's Hot Spring Resort. Okay, I've made videos here before. This is one of my favorite places on earth, actually, because it's such a funky, well, to be fair, I haven't stayed here in a few years, so they may have made some improvements since I stayed here last, but when I stayed here back around, I don't know, 2014 or so, it had this, to me, very charming sort of rustic, busted appeal to the cabins. The hot springs, I feel like, are really nice. There's nothing rustic or busted about the hot springs. They're piping hot water, very clean pools, and they actually have a swimming pool, okay? A full-size swimming pool back there that's full of, I don't know how hot it is, but it's like 95, 100 degree water. It's beautiful. It looks like something out of a resort in Vegas. But you know me, I'm not much for resorts in Vegas. I like quirky, funky, rusty, dusty, busty old stuff, like this awesome old truck just sitting here rusting away in the desert sun. And even better, this awesome old laundromat in a Quonset hut. That's right, I think this actually might have been a functioning laundromat back in the day when Tecopa was an actual town and there was kids going to that school and people drinking at the snake pit. Well, apparently all those guys that got in bar brawls at the snake pit came over here to wash the blood and, well, whatever bodily fluids off their clothes. And we can actually walk right up these stairs here and take a look in the window and you'll see what I'm talking about. I mean, this is a really cool little building. I mean, look at that. Perfectly round. We wash. And then look inside. Oh my God, look, there's still like all the old washing machines in here. How about that? Boy, if these walls could talk. You know, I imagine all the miners' wives. I mean, the guys who got in the bar brawls at the snake pit, they weren't doing their own laundry. It's probably their wives that brought the laundry here. And as they were, folding their husbands' white undershirts and blood-stained chonies, well, they would talk and gossip about what was going on in town. And Oh my goodness, I can only imagine the stories they told. Ugh. Okay, before I wrap this video up and head home, I guess I would be remiss if I didn't mention this one last place here. It's at Delights, right on the other side of the road from that old Quonset hut laundromat. It's an awesome barbecue joint. And again, oh, and it's a brewery, and I'm not a fan of beer, and I don't even really like barbecue, but they make amazing food. I come there for dinner, gosh, probably about once a week because, well, even if you don't like barbecue, they have all kinds of other amazing cornbread, beans, coleslaw, and this amazing baked potato that comes fully loaded with beans and brisket and all kinds of amazing stuff. So if you're into barbecue, check this place out. If you're into steaks and beer, check out Steaks and Beer. If you're into just having a cup of coffee and a light bite, go to that cafe. Whatever you do, just come on out here and check this place out because it's awesome. Believe it or not, I gotta go because I ran into a bunch of people that were sitting out here at this barbecue place that all recognized me from YouTube. And there's one guy in particular over there who came all the way from Colorado. He happened to be in the area, and he brought me a bottle of Campari. So I gotta go. Hope you enjoyed this random, quirky, and, well, hopefully interesting, historical, and gossipy tour of my weird little town.